Well, we have just a few minutes left, so I want to kind of do a lightning round at the end, and ask, is there anything that organizations can do that will help reporting in China, including helping Chinese journalists? International organizations, including like ours, are tasked with the decision of whether to, put out statements or do things, because A, they may not be effective, but B, they may be, they may hurt, they may harm by, being this kind of foreign influence mechanism that has been certainly, that has been part of the, propaganda out of China, that anything they don't like is influenced by foreign, there's foreign influence involved. So I guess my lightning round question is there, do you see anything that organizations can or should do? And maybe it's as simple as continuing to talk about it. So I'll start with you, Chris, and then go to Yvonne and then Gerry.
I was just writing down a couple of points to make this very quickly. First of all, I would like to go back to that point of many countries, many media organizations facing the problem now that we have many younger journalists who aspire to work in China, and those opportunities simply aren't opening up in the way that they used to be. So I think it's sort of important for us to think about how we can nurture that next generation of Chinese journalists working in China, and what can be done to sort of provide opportunities so that they have opportunities to build up that expertise and on-the-ground experience, which is so important. Apart from that, all I can offer, I'm afraid, is a couple of platitudes about the importance of principles and patience. I mean, we have to remind ourselves this is, insofar as governments or organizations or journalistic outlets are going to be taking up these issues, I think it's important that we take them up as matter of principles that apply not just to China, the Chinese government, but in a sense universally. And so speaking up for freedom of the press is important, not simply when it's a matter in China, but when it's a matter in any part of the world. And just finally, the other platitude, I'm afraid, is patience as well. And the need to understand that while it's important to focus on key events like the Olympics, change in China is going to take time, whatever form it takes. And so, you have to be willing to invest that time to see results.
Good, thank you. I think the younger journalists is a real issue. And maybe it's something we should all be thinking about, with scholarships or those kinds of things to really help nurture that next generation. Yvonne, what are the things we should be doing, we should be thinking about?
Yeah, I think this comes down to China expertise again. And I think that, media outlets need to develop an understanding of how China works, so that when they have people in the field, they as a headquarters know when it's sensible to apply pressure, perhaps through the Chinese embassy in their home country, when it's sensible to back off. And I think you need to have the background and the expertise in order to make that judgment call, especially when you have local staff employed in China. You need to tread carefully, and you need to understand how the system works. So I think not having that expertise in your media outlet at home and also in country is a problem. And I think that's what needs to be addressed. And it's about prioritizing China and making it, a story that we all need to be focused on, that newsroom resources need to be targeted at. And yeah, I think for me, it would come down to that expertise.
Good, thank you. And Gerry, we'll give you the last word on this question.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I fully agree with Chris and Yvonne. What Yvonne said about sort of, having more knowledge, better judgment from headquarters about all the complicated issues we're dealing with in China. And I think this was also a point that Chris had mentioned offline, which is that let's not, in the discussion about all of the difficulties that the correspondents face, let's not forget about the situation that many of our Chinese colleagues who, as many of you know, work very closely with the sort of the foreign correspondents in China, some of the difficulties and sensitivities and the precarious situations that they're facing. They are Chinese nationals. They serve as researchers, translators. Really, they do the jobs of full journalists, but due to Chinese policies and regulations, they can't be accredited as correspondents. But they're absolutely invaluable, and often in sort of in fraught times like now, they're the ones who face the most pressure. And we've seen our colleagues in the last year or two who have been Chinese nationals who have been detained and haven't been heard from, have been forced to quit. And it's worrying. And I think that, yeah, if we could just all keep them in mind as well, as we discuss some of these issues about, what foreign correspondents face in China, it would be great because it's very, very important.
I think that's really a good point. They can't get on planes, and I mean, even though it's tough to be expelled, this is their country, and whatever happens to them and their families living there. Well, thank you so much. I want to thank our panelists. I don't know if you guys are seeing the chat, but there's a whole lot of high fives and virtual applause going on for the panelists. So I want to echo that and thank everybody for their wisdom, their honesty, and their willingness to have this conversation. And maybe we'll keep going with this. We'll do this again. So thank you, and I throw it back to Patricia, our OBC director, to close.
Well, thank you, Jodi, for taking this on. And thank you to Chris and Yvonne and Gerry for a very informative morning panel. And we really appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Or good morning.
Good night.